Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Ankerstar Wealth Morning Show, and welcome to Election Day. Oh, long time coming. We've been talking about this for a while, and honestly, the ride here has been a little less dramatic than I expected for the markets. So, and then even today, we'll look at it here in a second. Today, markets are in the green. What are they pricing in? I don't know. I like to say with markets, none of us is as dumb as all of us, but we shall see. But I will talk about the election first. I will say up front, if you don't get what you want, try to act like an adult. And if you do get what you want today, try to act like an adult. All right. This is hopefully we get an answer today or tomorrow or something instead of having to wait weeks. But we'll talk about the election first, and then I'll hand it over to Mike. Exciting news on our tech side of the portfolio. One of our ego stocks, Palantir, crushed earnings last night, up a ton today. Mike's going to talk about that. And then also NVDA, you may have heard of it, right? Was added to the Dow late Friday night. It and Sherwin-Williams replaced Intel and Dow Chemical, of all things. So anyhow, Mike will talk about that as well. Before we get started, this is a financial education presentation, so you have to do your own due diligence for acting upon anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information is available at ankerstarwealth.com. And the opinions expressed for sure going into the election are especially Mike and mine alone. All right, share. The phone's blowing up if you can hear that in the background. All right, here is the market today. NASDAQ up over 1%, everything else kind of up above the board. And, you know, it's like if you had have said, hey, Steve, on election day, do you think the VIX would be down 7%? I would say, no, ma'am, I would not expect that at all, right? Today, you would think it'd be the inverse, but who knows? Who knows? So where are we at? Let's go to a completely unverified source called electionbettingodds.com. They're showing it 60-40. Everybody else is saying it's even. Who knows? All I'm saying is that certainly this is the expectation is expecting good news in the market. Now, I will say that I kind of think the market will sell off no matter what happens. If we don't get a president, I think the market sells off. We did a little bit of study in 2000. If you remember Gore, Bush, I remember exactly where I was standing when Al Gore was named the next president of the United States, and I turned off the TV and went about my life. Turned out he was not the next president of the United States. But it was 24 days, right? And the market sold off almost 5%. So markets don't like uncertainty. So hopefully we just get a president that we can move on. But either way, I think, if the market's pricing in a Trump victory, it'll be a buy the rumor, sell the news sort of thing. And then if Harris gets elected, I think we see a little bit of sell off until we start hearing like some policies and what's really going to happen, and everything will get repriced from there. So anyhow, kind of a muted expectation for me personally this week. That is an opinion. All right, I will stop sharing. Mike, over to you, and let's talk about the good news in Palantir.
Yes. As many of you know, we have some ego stocks, exponential growth opportunities, where we're trying to pick stocks that can double and triple. And of course, everybody wants that. If we could do that consistently, everyone would just be in those. But we have our first one, Steve, that is officially doubled in this year. So Palantir, and overall, Palantir has had a fantastic year, culminated a few months ago when they were added to the S&P 500, but then they came out with earnings, and I'm showing them on my screen. And the earnings, they beat earnings a little bit, 10 cents versus 9, 726 million versus 701. I mean, yes, that's great news. They beat it, but really what it is the projection of revenue year over year has went up faster than expected. So Alex Karp, I said yesterday when the earnings came out and it was up 13%, I said this thing's up 25% if Alex Karp gets a haircut. It's up 21%. So I guess I was wrong. So anyways, Alex Karp leading this company. Palantir, I'm going to show you the graph. This is the year-to-date graph. And of course, you love stocks like this. Start of the year in the under 20 range. We added it somewhere in the low 20s, and here it is at $50 a share, up 21% today. So we love this company. It is it has the mix of where you want to be. It's in AI, it's in counterterrorism, and then it's expanding more out, past just government and getting into the commercial world and data analysis. AI, counterterror. I mean, that's cool stuff. That's a good place to be. If I'm ever unemployed, that's the kind of company that I like to work for. Something like that. Sounds exciting. Another one of it. So that's Palantir. Another stock that we went heavy into, I should say heavy, but we added it to our models a while back, is NVDA. And last Friday, as the market sold off a little bit, NVIDIA was added to the Dow, and the Dow has 30 stocks. The Dow is kind of a measure that was used a lot prior to the S&P 500. Back then, the Dow was the way you would get access to a broad market basket. The S&P 500 has really taken that over, but people still track the Dow, and getting added to those 30 stocks is pretty much prestigious. Sorry, Intel. So Intel, there goes one chip company out. In comes NVIDIA, in comes that chip company, makes sense. I'm going to show you the Dow 30 stocks on your screen so you can kind of see that this is it's a conglomerate of companies you want to be in, some that maybe you don't, but you have things like Apple's in there, and you have JP Morgan Chase, and you have Microsoft. Those all make sense. Now you have NVIDIA. Those are companies we hold in our book. And then you have other companies like Boeing just came off their strike, so that's good news. They haven't moved yet, but certainly good news going forward. And you have like Chevron, and you have Coca-Cola. So, really when you think of an overall economy, the Dow is a pretty good measure of it. One thing that's very interesting with the Dow compared to the S&P 500 is it is a price-weighted index, where the S&P 500 is a market cap weighted. So when you sort by price, you can see United is number 1 and Goldman Sachs is number 2. And even NVIDIA, you have to scroll down a little bit to find NVIDIA. It'll come in the the 140s. So it's kind of in the middle. And where an Intel was down to $23 a share, off about 50% this year, or off significantly, Intel essentially is the lightest weighted company in the entire Dow just because of the price. Now, we could get into mathematics and say the price is really not a good measure to do this by. The S&P 500 by market cap is much more accurate in my opinion. But still, I just want to say good news. NVIDIA gets added. Its stock went up a couple percent on Friday after hours. Haven't looked to see if it's up any further, but hey, we like those kind of news. We like to see our companies that we're purchasing and we're owners of in the news for good reasons. So with that, we can hold our breath till election. I'm sure tomorrow morning we'll be having an interesting show as we find out the results, or at least the current standings of that election game. So I will also say that with the elections, just remember that there is a independent Fed, and the business cycle largely runs independent of who is president. Presidents definitely take too much credit and they get too much blame. So, if things go up, they like to say it was me. And if things go down, their opponent likes to say it was them. So, but fortunately for us, the Fed takes care of things outside of the presidency. And the business cycle really runs independent. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Steve.
Yep, you bet. Sorry, I had to step away there for a second. Exciting day, of course. First of all, what the Dow, when I think of the Dow, I always think that's like the stocks, like if you could go back 30 years, you'd want to own, right? I mean, there's some names that have been there way too long. I mean, but they're not safe. So don't assume Dow is safety, because Intel took a 60%, 70% header in the middle of it too. But yeah, great news about Palantir. Mike, he even though I did hear something about my CAO talking about being unemployed in the future, hopefully that's not some veiled threat of quitting anytime soon. I didn't like that at all. I'm bearish on that. But assuming that's not the case, one of his job and the investing team that again we all are part of, but Mike leads that for us, is to pick these ego stocks. And yes, we do like it when they go up and double and that sort of thing. Wish we could do that all the time, but certainly just thrilled with his performance there. And lastly, like Mike was saying with the election, hang in there. Everybody's freaking out today, but we'll see, right? You've done your part. You've voted if you got out and did your vote, and that's all you can do. So with that, have fun watching the TV until probably far too late tonight, and probably be disappointed because, right, it's like they won't announce anything until after at least I'm gone to bed anyway. So with that, we'll see you back tomorrow with some hopefully exciting news. You have a good one. Bye.